Okay, let's move on to relationships now, shall we?
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to tell us what we're doing on Relationship
Okay, so
Friday?
on Relationship Friday, we have situations where many couples who, after being together for a while and they stop putting appearances, and the shells come off and they get to know each other for who they really are, the relationship grows stale and they begin to drift apart. So most couples, if not all, tend to find themselves in such a situation at some point. What do you do to turn things around and rediscover each other? We're bringing in a counselor to the show this morning to share with all of us some ideas.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you have ideas, we would love to hear from you. You tell us how to keep your relationship spicy, sexy, and exciting, especially after you've been together for a while.
All right, so there he is, Amos Kevin Annan, convener of Singles in 3D and Creative Couples Conclaves. All right, good morning to you.
Israel, good morning, Enimwa.
Okay.
Trust you're good.
Yeah,
Yes,
and you're making it clear that you have a conference coming up, Creative Couples Conclave.
Well, Creative Couples Conclave is our annual getaway for couples who are within the high-pressure work environment to have some time away from home. But September is the month of my birth and that of my two daughters. And so each year in September, for the past 5 years, we do a getaway event and we give it to the public. And so 2 weeks ago, we focused on men. Last week, we focused on women. And this coming Sunday, after church, 5:30, we are focusing on prospective spouses and spouses. We're going to have a conversation around how to be a 360 degrees helpmeet.
Okay, when you say prospective spouses, so people who are intending to get into a relationship or a marriage.
Anyone who has a contemplation that one of these days.
So it's more of a single summit, sort of.
No, it's not a single summit. This particular one is focused on persons who are prospecting and those who are already in marriage. So
okay.
If you are going through marriage counseling, for instance, you're a prospect and therefore you can come. Those who are looking forward to a suitor, they can also participate because the discussion is both preemptive and also curative. So we are helping those who are going in to take the proper posture and mindset into marriage, and those who are in already to review their relationship and ensure that they are doing what is the needful.
All right, at this point, I'll leave the conversation to anyone.
Oh, wow, it's
I knew that was going to be.
Okay.
It's been such a long time.
Yes, it has been.
Such
and
an
it's good
honor
to talk
seeing
to
you again.
Yes, it is indeed. So, I mean, let's actually talk about the conversation proper. So, I think I was reading somewhere that after a few months, after the honeymoon phase and all of that, in a relationship, then everything settles, and there's always that point where the relationship, you think at the beginning of a relationship you're choosing the person, but you're actually not choosing them until the honeymoon phase is over, when you have to say, okay, yeah, I know you do this, you do that, you do that, I hate this, I hate this, I hate that, but I'm going to choose you. So let's start from that point. Does that point hit every relationship, or is that peculiar to some relationships?
Well, I mean, there is the ideal situation that an individual contemplates before a relationship is formalized into, say, a marriage. And then there is the reality that one encounters in marriage. So oftentimes I will tell people there are things you know before marriage, but certainly there are going to be things you will discover after you have committed. Now, for
okay,
a lot
but
of individuals,
sorry, 1 second. Not even before we get into the context of marriage.
All right.
I mean,
okay.
just even in the context of a relationship, yes.
Yes, certainly. I mean, even for a relationship, you are now going to commit to an individual. Much the same way, you're going to discover certain things you didn't know prior to making the commitment. And if it is that you had promised someone, I'm going to date you, or I want to consider you for a long-term relationship, the person then can get into an artificial mode where they show you what they want you to see.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the moment you make a commitment to them that you are the one I am going to exclusively relate with, then you are going to begin to see a no-holds-bar expression of who they are.
Yeah.
So they will show you their real character. So it's important to know that if you are not yet committed to a person, many things come very spontaneously. But the moment the person makes a verbal commitment or even a documentary commitment, you then have to do everything intentionally. Otherwise, you would not be able to do it.
Well, when you say do everything intentionally, is that your way of saying that you have to begin to overlook a lot of things?
No, overlooking is not an intentional thing that should be encouraged. Everything that comes up needs to be discussed. You need to confront. You should be bold and courageous to raise it up for conversations. And so don't ignore the little things, because when it comes to the health of a relationship, the small things are actually the big things.
Yeah.
So if you wink over little things and assume they will go away, they would actually grow into huge edifices that you're going to struggle to pull down. And it takes a lot of work to avoid what could be nipped in the bud and allow it to blossom into a huge bonfire. And that is usually what I see in many relationships of today.
Okay, so let's break this down into two almost separate conversations. So let's first have a conversation about relationships, and then we can have a conversation about marriage. So let's start with relationships, right? So let's say you've been with somebody for about 2 years, you know them, you spent a lot of time with them, everything has become mundane, and you're beginning to ask yourself, okay, do I really love this person because the butterflies are not there anymore? I'm not as excited at the prospects of spending time with them. Even though, yeah, it's all good and stuff. Can you clarify for that if that process is a normal part of every relationship? And if it is, or, when you get to that point, how do you bring the spark back? Because the way that you bring a spark back in a relationship is very different from how you bring a spark back in a marriage.
Oh, certainly. Now, for instance, if a person is in a relationship with another, they have to anticipate that a time is going to come where things may look monotonous. And so you need to find ways of creating dynamism in the relationship. Now, you have to also determine which aspects of the relationships have become monotonous and therefore potentially going to become boring. So is it about conversations? Is it about outings? Is it about attitudes? Is it about values? So the things that potentially can give you difficulty, you need to be able to identify them first and foremost. Now, you also must make a determination how much of it is your contribution. Because oftentimes what I see is that people are looking to getting a particular thing, but they are not willing to give off something. Now, it's a trade-off. It's an investment you're going to make. So even though it's been said that it takes two to tango, when it comes to relationships, it takes one unhappy person to destroy it.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, indeed it takes two to tango. But when it comes to relational health, for it to stay healthy, it takes only one person to feel disenchanted, displeasured, and disconnected. And the moment they feel disconnected, they move away easily and make you an alternative to other things.
Right.
Now, the other thing people should pay attention is this. In a relational cycle, endeavor not to be an option to a person to whom you see as a priority.
How do you do that?
You see, if the person sees you as second to everything, you must begin to advise yourself.
Okay, can you put that in context for us? Because when you say second to everything, that's quite subjective.
Instance, well, I mean, second to everything, because relationship is
well, second
huge.
to God, it's not a bad position.
Well, we're talking on earth.
So, I mean, okay, second to my going to choir rehearsal, second to my, having to work some evenings.
Boys, and girls hang out and all that.
Okay, so those kinds of things.
Are you becoming secondary to those things?
Okay.
It shouldn't be.
How about
you ought to be a priority.
How about the job?
The job still, you've got to be a priority over the job. It doesn't mean you're going to sacrifice your work for the person. That's not what it means. It simply means that the person would have to identify that if their job is going to keep them busy, you are notified.
Okay.
But in a situation where the person does not inform you about happenings in their life and expect that you become a mind reader or a mood reader, that is potential crisis.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Okay.
So coming on the same page at every given moment is what I'm speaking to.
Okay,
and this will require disclosures. So persons in a relationship must endeavor to have conversations about their priorities in life so that they are clear in their mind and not create any ambiguity that creates expectations that cannot be met.
Okay.
That's one. Secondly, it's important that you are connecting with an individual that you can be selfless, not selfish. Because see, when you are selfless, it is at that point that you become vulnerable to being impacted in the relationship. So the person can't sacrifice for you. You can't either also sacrifice for them. That's a recipe for disaster.
Right.
Because it's going to be you, I, and myself. And when a relationship is hinged on these three, potentially there'll be crisis.
Okay.
Now, the third thing the individual must also look at for this relationship to work is also to identify the critical things that they need, which they cannot let go. I call it the irreducible minimum. They are already low enough, you don't want to go below it.
Irreducible minimum. Okay.
Now, that's a threshold nobody should go below.
Okay.
So, for instance, you can't countenance lies. You can't countenance a third-party involvement. You can't countenance hanky-panky deceit. All those kinds of things need to
I'm sorry, what is hanky-panky deceit?
Well, you know, people hide behind stuff and they act it out, they dramatize, they create scenes, and they flare up in tantrums when you confront them. That's what I call hanky-panky deceit.
Okay.
You are just creating
drama
around the issue when there is no drama at all.
Okay.
And this is where you hear one person say, well, I can't take your drama any longer.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But you know, so these things sound very, what's the word? They sound very technical. So they sound very, you know, these are the commitment things and, you know, the values and stuff. But when you have all these things in place and you've been with somebody for a while, you know, the dopamine levels, the serotonin levels, they're not being produced, you know, as much. You know, this person is not your high anymore. You're not as addicted anymore. So everything may be working, but it becomes mundane. So at that point, how do you light the fire again? Okay, I think he's having a few issues. But you have been married for 54 years.
The dopamine and those technical words that you use?
You know, they're just like the hormones that your body releases that make you feel happy and excited and get the butterflies and you know.
Is dopamine and what?
Serotonin. Serotonin is the feel-good hormone.
Okay.
Yeah. And dopamine is the high.
I think we have Amos back on the line.
You seem very happy about that. No, we don't. So since you've been married for 54 years, how do you keep the spark alive?
Well,
the spark is alive, right?
You take it each day at a time,
okay.
Actually. So there are things that you have to rediscover. So you want to go back to doing some things that you used to, and except this time it's a little different because you're having, in my case, you're having kids around. In the case of most marriages, there'll be kids around. And so you have to add them to the mix. So you're going out, you have to add them, you have to factor them into, you know, your outings and all that, you're taking trips. But then in the midst of all of that, you also have to make a conscious effort to find time for yourself.
Yeah. But you know, there's that point when you've kind of been with somebody for a while and you feel like you just know them. So there's nothing new to discover.
Oh, but there are new things that you can have conversations about. So maybe there's nothing new to discover. But
is there ever nothing new to discover?
I don't think so.
Because if you're with somebody who's...
There's sometimes you'll be holding on to... You see, we're two different people. There's some things that I will feel that they're normal. And so I don't need to open up to you about. Okay? But then you're coming from a different background altogether. And so I'm thinking this should not be something you should be concerned about. Then much later on, it comes up. Then you're like, why you should have told me about this? And then you're saying, I didn't think so. I thought, same way, you would also have some things that you think are normal. And so you don't need to open up about. And then they may discover a lot later that, oh, so you've been holding on to this thing for all this while. So yes, I don't think there gets to a time when you say, I've seen it all.
That's very interesting, because I find that, especially with men, from stories that I've collected over the years, that men just generally lose interest in their partners after a while. Is it because, women are not making an effort to stay relevant or stay exciting? Because, women too, like after you've been with a guy for a while, Charlie, they come, you're there, cry your hair, no, go comb balm. It's like, yeah, whatever, been there, done.
For me, I feel it's about making a commitment and saying that it is this person and I'm staying with this person, whatever. Because if you think that you have options, that's when at some point you're thinking, okay, yeah, I'm thinking about this other option, and so this person becomes second fiddle.
But we do have options in life.
No, we do have options in life, but I believe that when it comes to your wife or your partner, there's no option. You've made a commitment from the very beginning that this is it, and that is it.
So is this like only after you get married? Because when you're in a relationship, you hear how people say...
In the relationship, yeah, it's just options. A relationship. You have options. Yeah. It is at the point where you commit and you're saying that this is the person I'm going to live the rest of my life with, and you're going to have kids, and yeah, that's it. You're locked.
Oh, don't say it like that.
No, but that's what it is.
So when you say locked, it's kind of like you're locked, and the key has been thrown away, so there's nowhere to go.
That should be the mindset, I believe.
Interesting.
Yeah, until it gets to a point where you feel, okay, no, this has to be unlocked.
I see. So you go and dive into the deep blue sea to look for the key, basically. Interesting. Well, we're having a conversation about keeping the spark alive in your relationship. We were speaking. Oh, okay. Oh, you're back. Hello.
Hi, anymore.
Why are you laughing?
I've been enjoying your discussion.
Oh.
Yeah, she tried to put me on the spot.
The lock and the key issue.
Yeah, she tried to put me on the spot.
Is the issue of the lock that got me laughing anymore?
I see. Okay.
Oh.
I like the way Evie explained it.
No, but I'm interested in the way you see the lock. And the lock.
No. Anyone said the lock and the key sounds like it's been thrown away.
Okay.
And I like your explanation of the commitment, because at a point, it's not just around sentiments, it's also commitment.
Yes. Yeah. And anyway, by the way, when she said
an alternative.
Yeah. Anyway, when she actually said locked, she had other things in mind. So yeah.
Other things. This is defamation. Okay. Other things like what?
Let's carry on with the conversation.
Wow. Okay.
Evie, you are becoming clairvoyant.
Anyway, so let's go back to keeping the spark or reigniting the spark. A friend of mine once was explaining how she felt about her husband. And she said it's like she is a matchstick and her husband is the matchbox. And the husband has fallen in water. So when she takes out the matchbox and she tries to light it, it's wet. It is not sparking. It is not sparking. So how do you
Is your friend an artist?
No. But how do you ignite?
Okay, so your friend needs to dry the box. Give it a sun tan.
Okay, so how do you do that? Practically speaking.
No, you see, we always have to ask ourselves, how were things prior to this condition? Now, once we are able to describe how things were, then the second thing would be what contributed to what we experienced in the past and what is missing, which has created the present situation. Because oftentimes people know what to do, except that they are reluctant to do it. or they are trivializing their own efforts or the efforts of the other party. So I would recommend that your friend goes back to what was keeping the spark, because it differs from couple to couple. When you sit with them, you will see that everybody's own is different, especially if you have somebody whose love language is touch. The absence of that then creates the less of a spark. If you have one who is conversationalist, theirs will be when there's a reduction in conversations and disclosures, and they are getting only one-liners when they require a paragraph of explanation. That can create disaffection in the person, and therefore they will conclude that the spark is gone. But let us all understand that once you make a commitment to a person, things will not be as they were previous. And therefore, it will require greater effort to be able to keep it running. Otherwise, every one of us would have to walk out of a relationship or marriage over a period of time.
Yeah, and I think that maybe we don't get taught that enough. You know, there's always so many different narratives, the Milton Boone narratives and the Harlequin about, you know, love is the most important thing and love is all you need, you know, and it makes it seem as if when you fall in love, you know, that feeling will persist forever. And perhaps we're not.
I mean, it's important we all appreciate that we never stay in the same emotional space all the time. And because we as individuals are the ones brokering this relationship, it stands to reason that because our emotions are not stable, and sometimes they go, you know, up, down, sometimes they stay within median range, the same thing will find expression in the relationship.
Right, okay.
Because the relationship is being operated by the two persons.
Okay.
You know, it's just like looking for somebody who is eating, wants to have an oatmeal and then goes to buy Gary. How do you have oatmeal
from Gary
when you buy Gary?
Yeah.
You get Gary soakings.
Yeah.
Now, so we are the ones investing in the relationship. We are making it happen. Relationships are not falling from the sky, as it were, but we are the ones creating the conditions for us to enjoy it or to endure it, or to endear ourselves to it.
To it, okay.
So when you act in a certain way, you'll be enduring. When your party or partner or spouse also acts in a certain way, they may create an enduring condition for you. And you will find it choking and stressful. So you want to be out of it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's
But
move.
when they create a very good atmosphere, you endear each other to one another, and then you'll be enjoying the relationship in the long run.
Okay, so let's move from reigniting relationships to reigniting marriages, because obviously the dynamics are very different.
All right, okay.
How much of a role does good, exciting, new, explorative, adventurous sex play in reigniting, you know, a boring, monotonous, you know, I'm tired of seeing your face every day and washing your socks and your smelly boxers and your snoring and all of that.
Well, thank you, Nimwa. I think that it's important, first and foremost, for the couple to make it a priority. You know, don't take it for granted. Now, it must be consensually approached. The spouses should work together as a team.
When you say that, do you mean like sit at the study table together and read the Kama Sutra?
No, not necessarily. Okay. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Have conversations, honest, frank conversations on the subject. Many are very discomforted when it comes to matters of sex, intimacy.
But Reverend, you look very serious talking about the sex issue. Like you didn't make a fear self. Like
it's in the morning. It's in the morning, so I'm also mindful.
Okay. Well, the kids are in school, most of them. So.
I shared something with a call. I've spent 3 years developing what I call SPICE, SPICE, and it focuses on sentiments, passion, intentionality, chemistry, and expressions. And in this presentation, I make a case that every marriage can be spiced. And just as we use spices in the kitchen, we can spice our marriage. First, we need to focus on the sentiments. Are we expressing our sentiments in the marriage?
Wait. Please, have we finished talking about good sex? Because it looks like we've moved on from the good sex to spice. Oh, you are mixing it all together. That Billy mind, ma. Okay, he's frozen. He's frozen. No. Is he? Let's talk about good sex, shall we?
I can see you're so excited by the sex thing.
Because
yes,
if you read Doug Hayward Mills's Pastor Bishop Doug Hayward Mills's book. Wow.
Well, she's hearing voices.
If you read Bishop Doug Hayward Mills's book.
It's in a different world.
Exactly.
I'll stop the show. I'll get annoyed. Anyway, no.
Don't
stop. Rev, you know, Israel was saying that I seem to be very excited by the sex conversation. But I'm not excited by the sex conversation. It's just that I recognize the importance. You know, sex is like, it tells you the temperature of the relationship or of the marriage.
I don't dispute it.
It's the kako in the consumer stew.
I don't dispute it.
Exactly. And Bishop Doug Hayward Mills, you know, in his counseling book, the blue one, you know, talked about the fact that the number of times you have sex in a week or in a day, it shows the state of what's going on. So if we are reigniting, Reverend.
Not necessarily.
Oh, if you are not doing it a lot, Charlie, then nah.
Okay, so let's, so we have the Muslim. So let's hear.
A lot of things have to be looked at within context.
Yeah.
Don't agree.
When you say this to a woman who is going through a situation where she's just not excited about sex, i.e. women who have hit menopause, you cannot make this as a conclusive statement.
You heard that?
No, but we are not talking about the menopausal women here too. That one is a different segment. Because that one, because Reverend, the menopausal bit also has to do with a lot of hormones. For example, when you're in menopause, you're not producing estrogen. So sex is actually painful for you because you're not naturally lubricating. So that's like a different dimension.
When you have a young man who is stressed, he's lost his job, he's confronted with a critical decision to be made, he would also not be very active in that space.
Oh, unless you are wearing like a nurse's uniform and a stripper pole, he can be excited into,
well, it takes a lot more effort to gain his attention.
Of course. Okay, I'll be serious now.
I can tell you that during the lockdown, I had a lot of calls, people telling me that their husbands have just distuned.
Have just what?
Why it wasn't so? They have distuned, disconnected.
They've gone off.
Oh.
They are not responsive to them.
They were missing their girlfriends.
And this is a situation where you are there. You are there, you are not going anywhere, and it is assumed that because you're not going anywhere, it's a fait accompli.
But you know, Reverend, there was also the argument that a lot of marriages, you know, were going through this because a lot of men and a lot of women were missing their mistresses and boyfriends who actually contribute to making the marriage more exciting. So it's multi-dimensional.
It was also the case that it's also the case that many of them have been running after their tails for years, and then all of a sudden you have to lock down.
Yeah.
And I discovered there were three things. You are in each other's space, and so it was overbearing. You are in each other's face, and it was becoming overwhelming. And you were also becoming a nuisance to each other. And therefore, if you didn't manage it well, then it was going to be a problematic relationship. No wonder a lot of nations registered a skyrocketing domestic violence situations.
Yeah.
Because people just could not handle the stress levels that the anxiety had produced in them as persons.
Yeah.
And when the anxiety level goes up, it affects the anxiety levels in the relationship as well. So let's talk back again at the sex issue.
Yeah.
You see, it's not just about frequency. It's also about technique. It's also about, it's also about style. So parties involved in the relationship needs to have a conversation. You see, that's why I keep harping on the conversation. Otherwise, there's no feedback.
Feedback is very important.
There ought to be feedback.
Yes.
That's why I talk about sentiments, because see, the sentiments are to be experienced by the parties. And it has to create passion. Passion is needed. It's the energy. It's the excitement. When you see each other's nude bodies, does it send a trigger to you? Or you become numb?
Oh.
And intentionality, that is, you focus on the person. You keep them in your thoughts, in your mind, in your soul, in your whole being. You are actually encapsulated by the individual.
Hallelujah.
And that creates the chemistry I speak about.
Yes.
You see, there's supposed to be a certain bond that connects you and the party. But unfortunately, I said it somewhere that some men have to count reverse 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bingo! Before they can even have erection.
Oh.
When you have such a situation, it means there's a problem.
Okay.
Then there must be expressions. So the expressions is where the feedback comes. Are you okay? Do you want something other than this? Are we going ahead of each other? Am I leapfrogging whilst you are crawling? And especially for a lot of men, they have a certain new mindset. I'm going to power her. That is terrible.
What's that?
Lovers don't go.
Yeah,
lovers don't go and power each other.
Please, what does the power mean?
You've heard it. They say it a lot on the radio.
No, we are very, very holy people.
Yeah, you anymore. With all the things you have been reading.
Oh, I haven't heard power.
The references you have made this morning.
Oh no, Israel, do you know what power means?
I don't know what power is, but I'm surprised you don't know.
You know, a lot of the young men want something. You hear it in the local language.
Oh.
So they go and hire a lawyer, i.e. aphrodisiacs.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So they stay longer, they appear powerful, but anymore, you know, you have a background in psychology, you understand these things. It is not just about chainsaw operation.
Oh, wow. This conversation is so coded, it's not even funny.
It's not even funny. I've told you that there are lots of ears that are listening.
Okay, I like that.
Bombshells.
I love
but
that.
I try to stay away from bombshells.
From bombshells. Wow.
I remember even the little I said at Joy Bridal Fair the other time.
Yeah, what's a shock?
I had a run for my money.
Okay, so no power.
I want to propose four things for wives.
Okay.
First and foremost, the wife must learn to tempt the husband.
Ooh. Seduction.
How you tempt him, yes, you should be able to tempt him. Secondly, trap him. Let him keep his thoughts and his energies and his attention on you. Then you torment him. Give it all your best. Give it your best shot. Yeah. Torment him.
See us for details.
And then when you torment your man, you tame him.
Right. Okay.
And you hear him snoring and sleeping. Sleepy snoring. Now, let me add another T. Treasure him. Men like to be treasured. Those heroic prowess of his needs to be celebrated. So I leave this for my ladies.
It's the men. But you see, it's very, very, very distinct. You have just given the surface, but there are details that the devil is in the detail. Because the tempting and the trapping and the tormenting, the taming part is the easy part. Anyway, Israel, do you want to finish this conversation?
Which one is the killing part?
I mean, I think the tempting perhaps is not. We're a little bit used to that, But the the trapping and the tormenting takes a certain sort of skill, because that's a push and pull, isn't it?
Yes, it takes a skill.
Yeah,
it is. So we need the wives to keep their eye on the ball.
Yes.
You must be very intentional about what you're doing.
Yeah, very.
So, for instance, tempt him is make yourself irresistible to him. Trap him is make him focus on you and your
torment.
features, your form. What? Yeah.
And
the
torment is
give
hot.
him in order that you can gain. Is a hot.
Kabul.
Your response.
I'm about to speak in tongues this morning.
Hey,
Come
you're about
on now.
to speak in tongues.
Glory.
I can see. You tame him by, the man, it's almost like he's run a marathon. So you're keeping him sleepy and snoring.
Yeah.
And then you treasure him. And I believe that the discerning wife would never leave her husband to exit the house hungry and horny. Because if you do that, you make him vulnerable to slay queens. Now to the men. I have 5 W's for the men as well.
All right. Okay.
The first one is warmth. You must create connection and chemistry. The second one is wet up. You wet up because they willingly welcome you. It is lubrication to avoid friction and tension and pain and stress and distress. Then get her into a place of getting wild, where she wishes there's no end to it. Then the 4th W, leave her to wonder, when next are we coming again? And the 5th one, let her wait and wish with the posture and expectation. Because in many, many marital situations, what I see is that one is sex satisfied, the other is sex expectant. Yes. But I want to say this. A real husband does not keep the wife's eyes wet, but learns to keep her panties wet.
Your poncho, no. Inti. Okay, so Israel, I'll see you. I'm going. Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for that. The reason why I love this so much is
you're welcome.
A lot of Christian marriages are suffering because there's too much spirit, not enough soul, not enough body. So thank you so much for that, and for reminding us that.
I've told a call. I've told a call that I would want to give you exclusive to my spice model.
Eish.
And we can have a conversation around the spice it up model. Because the focus of that is to cure bedroom boredom.
Yeah.
That's the whole focus.
Okay.
How do you cure the boredom in the bedroom? And I want to thank you also for the opportunity to have interacted with you.
Sure.
And like I said, on Sunday at the Harvest Chapel, we are hosting prospective spouses and spouses at 5:30 in the evening. Exactly 7:30, we'll close. We are doing it in partnership with the Harvest Chapel couples, and we pray that it will be a wonderful opportunity to bless would-be couples and couples. Thank you very much, Izzy and Enimua.
Thank you so much, too, for tormenting us and making us wild this morning.
Hey, Enimua, is that all you
right back at you, yes.
With all my gentleness, gentle Jesus, meek and mild.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you once again for the opportunity.
Okay, bye.
For now.
Okay.
All right, so for everybody else who was watching, for the last 5 or 10 minutes of the conversation was about sex. So if you are wondering what's all this wet and wild and all of that, yes, it has to do about sex.
Have you learned anything today?
Yeah.
What did you learn?
A lot.
A lot?
The whole show.
I knew that's what you were going to say. Oh my God. Oh, moments like this bring me such joy. Anyways, so we're done with our relationship conversation. And the men in the studio are very grateful. We hope that you go out there and make it work. You know? Knowledge in your head that doesn't translate. Okay, I'm just going to stop at this point. We're going for a short break. When we come back, and we have an exciting performance for you. Don't go anywhere.